Hello guys, I'm Super Ron, welcome back to the G-Unit and welcome to episode 16 of my GBS Zero build. It is absolutely freezing down here, as you can tell by my winter attire, so we're going to get wrapped up, but we need to crack on to warm up, so let's get stuck into this wiring. In a previous episode, we ran the Tiger Cat E1 loom all the way around the car, and although it sits pretty well, it is a little bit awkward because it's all been wrapped up in this kind of thick insulation tape, so it's a bit awkward on all the joins, and maybe the GBS chassis follows slightly different lines to what the Tiger chassis, but everything's kind of in the right place. We've got lights, we've got horn, all the alternator, the starter motor, the fan on the front. So what I'm going to do is unwrap all the Tiger loom, place it where I want it to be so it's all nice and natural, and then wrap it up so it follows the lines of the GBS chassis. So let's start unwrapping. All the loom is kind of labelled already. It's got masking tape tabs on each thing, but I'm going to be taking all these off with all the insulation tape to keep it all neater. Got my label maker. So it'll be all nice and professional. That's the front half loom, all unwrapped, so it's much easier to see what's what. We've got all our labels on, right light, horn. These are only temporary labels, these will all be cut off and the nicer ones put on. This is just a cheaper tape, just to make sure everything's organised. There's a few that we can ditch. We've got washer jets and heater, so they can all come out of the loom. But the good thing that I have found is it looks like the loom is going to be way too long, which is perfect, which means I can cut everything back to shape. If it's too short and I'd had to extend things and add wires and joins, that wouldn't be as good. But as it's too long, I can now cut it all down to fit the chassis perfectly. Another thing I noticed is because where I've put my fuse board, the loom comes forward, and then the rear loom, where it goes back to the rear lights, actually comes all the way forward to the engine bay, and then all the way back down the car to the rear end. So what I can do is unwrap this some more and pull this back so it comes out of the fuse box and then down to the rear of the car. It'll just be a bit more neater, and of course less wire, less weight. We need to get every gram we can with these, and the same with the front. We're so long, I can trim these right down. We'll probably cut this loom in half, so that'll save a nice lot of weight. And we're all labelled up. And the only thing with the Brother label maker, for every cut, it does make you reset the tape. So you have to cut off a little square for every one, which is a bit of wastage, but it's not too bad. Like I say, this is only the cheaper tape. We'll put the more expensive shrink wrap one on when I finalise the loom. But now let's get this put in and line up where we want everything to go. Well, saying I thought it's a bit long may be a bit of an understatement. Here's the loom in, and that's how long it is. Here is starter wire. Here, there's the starter motor over there. so I can trim a lot of this out. So I'm going to be able to make it perfectly. Comes all the way this far. So I'll give you guys a little update before I have a mid-session tidy up, because all this stuff on the floor keep getting stuck to my feet, getting really annoying. So we're going to clean that up. But as you saw me thin out all the loom, starting getting it in the right place, saw me chop out a few bits. So this is what we've chopped out so far. We've got the washer jet wires, we've got the heater wires. I'm not sure what the Tiger loom was for, but it's for something with a distributor and a carburetor, I reckon, because it's got coil wires. So I've chopped all them out. I have kept the coil wire and the taco wire in the loom because that will run to the mega squirt, so that will go to the clocks and supply a ignition live for the ECU. But I've started to get the loom running through here, runs underneath. I've got the starter motor wires coming down here. These ones are for the oil pressure, which the oil pressure switch goes in the back of the pump there. Then it runs through, and I've singled out what I've got. As you can see, very, very long. So I'll be able to shorten this all down. We've got the alternator wire for the battery light. We've got the left and right indicators. We've got the fan and the horn wires. We've got the water temperature for the dash. And then we've got side lights, dip beam and main beam. So now I know where we're starting, back at the fuse box. I can come along. So this is how long this is actually all coiled up. So this is where the right indicator would be, but we're actually going to be stopping it all the way back here by the mount. So, and then the other one will tee off and go over to the other side. So that's going to be nice and neat. That'll run along the bottom of this bar, and the plugs will be just under where the light is. So let's get a bit more chopping after we tidy up. It is way too cold in here. Some of you may remember from back in the day when I was building my Astra wiring loom on my parents' driveway. I think it was even on Christmas Day, and it was snowing, there was snow blowing all around the car, and I had to put some boards around the back of the car to stop the snow blowing under my feet. Well, I'm a lot older now, maybe a lot wiser, but one thing for sure, we are getting the heater on. Oh. Much better. After a nice little warm up there, I can finally feel my toes again. I was consulting the wiring diagrams for the Tiger loom because there's a couple of wires I wasn't quite sure about. We've got the handbrake warning light back here next to the handbrake, but we've got a couple of wires at the front labelled brake switch, and what I thought they were for was for the level switch on the master cylinder, because that's where they sit on top there. But the wires were a different colour, so I checked them out on the wiring diagram, then I unwrapped it as well just to double check. And these are in fact not for the low level fluid, these are for the brake light switch. On the GBS Zero, they have the brake light switch right at the back on the T-piece where they split to each wheel, but the Tigers must have their brake light switch near the front. So that's not a problem for me because I haven't made any brake lines yet, so it's better to find out now. So I'll put the brake light switch somewhere at the front. But I've just traced the wire from the handbrake warning light switch, and it does just come all the way to the front, to the clock wires, and it's on its own to the back of the light, which means that the Tiger loom doesn't have any wire in it for the low level switch, which is a IVA requirement. So it's not too much of a job. I can just run a wire from that, which will be sitting up here anyway, to the wires that go to the back of the clocks. And that means that the warning light on the dash will come on with the handbrake raised, or if there's low fluid, which is what the IVA want to see. That's the wiring loom all in its places. Sits a lot more relaxed now. Everything runs around to its correct places. I've managed to cut quite a bit out in the length down there on the floor. So we've got the wiring loom comes out of the fuse box, comes along here. Underneath we've got our power wire and starter wire, and also the oil pressure wires. I'll shorten them when I know exactly where they're going. Then we've got our headlight this side here, along with the indicator, because I think the indicator is going to go in the nose cone. And then around this side we've still got the fan wiring on the front, so I'll shorten that to suit. We've got this side headlight and indicator. We've got the water temperature for the dash, and the alternator down there, which I'll shorten when I know the route. But as you can see, sits in there really nicely. I'll tape it all up together and then we'll make some proper fixings. We've got that going along. Coming along, we've got our reverse light and brake light switch in here as well, so that will go in this area. And the handbrake switch we talked about earlier. And then on the back, we're still super long here. We've got these up for the rear lights all coiled up. So as you can see, there's going to be a lot of shortening to do on the rear as well, which is good news. Less weight, and it's better to shorten than lengthen, because then you have loads of joins, whereas now we've got all one piece. So I think I'm going to get all the front tidied up and fixed in properly, and then pull the back to where that's going to go. I've also got the wiring here. This is going to wire to the aerial atom clocks. That's what these ones are. That's all the signals and warning lights. Then all these are for the switches, which are going to go to the Sierra column. So there's still some more wiring to do, but we've got everything now to suit the GBS chassis, and I think it sits in there really nicely. So when that's all taped up and fixed in properly, that's going to look a nice factory loom. So I'm going to have to stop this episode here because I am out of time. Once again, all that unwrapping took absolutely ages, as I'm sure you can imagine, but now I'm happy. I know we've got everything in its place. I've got to decide on what plugs I'm going to use for the headlights, and so I can join all them together, and exactly where the indicators are going to go in the nose cone, and just put everything to length and then wrap it all up really nicely, and that'll be the front end loom finally finished. Once I've done the front end, I think I'm going to move on to sorting the dash area out, getting the aerial atom clocks wired in, and getting all the stalks and everything in their correct places. So then we're all ready to go, move along to the back, get the rear end all finished off, and then I'll know where everything is, so I can, wherever my ECU is, I can then make the engine loom and get everything connected together, and that'll be one big job ticked off. Now, I know it's not been much action this episode. It must be a bit boring watching me unwrap, rewrap, unwrap and rewrap, but I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I absolutely love wiring. I know it's a bit of a weird quirk, but this is my favourite part of a build. If you didn't catch last week's episode, that was a little look back on the 1 year anniversary of making my S6 production. Lots of outtakes, lots of funny little moments. So I didn't spam the kit car site with it because it wasn't really kit car related. But if you want to check it out, I'll put a link at the end and one down in the description. So make sure you check that out as well. But I've still got lots of wiring, so make sure you subscribe. If you're enjoying yourself, tune in to next time where we'll be carrying on with the wiring. So until then, make sure you have fun.